All right, this meeting of the Tyler ISD Board of Trustees was previously called to order. The presence of a quorum has been established and the meeting has been duly called, and the notice of the meeting has been posted in the time and manner required. Thank you all for coming out tonight. We are reconvening from executive session and we do not have any action, so we will jump right into the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. And Mrs. Atkins. Okay. Thank you for that, Miss Atkins. All right, we're going to go ahead and move into our special recognitions. Wait, right? Yeah, special recognitions. It's been so long.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Crawford. Tonight we would like to begin our recognitions by announcing our October Students of the Month for the district. The elementary student of the month is Jacob Gutierrez, a fifth grader at TJ Austin Elementary School. The secondary student of the month is Saide Bernal, a 12th grade student at Early College High School. At this time, please join me in watching a brief video about these two outstanding students.
Tyler ISD would like to recognize the efforts of our two district Students of the Month. These students are selected by the display of their unique, outstanding qualities. We believe these qualities lead to successful student outcomes both in and outside of the classroom. First, we would like to recognize Jacob Gutierrez, a fifth grade student at TJ Austin Elementary, as our Elementary Student of the Month. Jacob's teachers describe him as a leader. He has stepped up to help with the morning announcements and also helps as a cafeteria assistant, providing aid to any kindergarten students who need help.
I have a morning job that helps kindergartens or pre-K, help them open the bags and throw away, then they just line up and just meet and my help and leave.
Jacob shows proactive behavior in the classroom by coming to school prepared to learn every day. He's always ready to help, from volunteering to carry materials for teachers to opening doors for others. He credits this to the principles of Lobo leadership.
Lobo leadership is when you do something good for others, and even though without being told to do it.
Out of all his subjects, Jacob says he enjoys reading and math the most. He hopes to grow up to be successful in business and help others by giving generously to charities.
So congratulations, Jacob. We're really proud of what you do here at Austin Elementary. And we know you're a leader on this campus, a leader in this community, and we think there's great things ahead for you. So congratulations. I want to present this to you.
Our secondary student of the month is Saide Bernal, a senior at the Early College High School. Saide is a member of Phi Theta Kappa, the International Honor Society of two-year colleges. She has maintained a 4.0 GPA in both high school and dual credit college grades. She is also a member of the National Honor Society and Science Honor Society.
Early College High School is just a program that provides several students with the opportunity to earn dual credit while taking their high school courses. It's an amazing opportunity for all of us because they pay for basically everything for our textbooks and our college courses. And it's just an excellent opportunity for people in this community in Tyler to get a proper education.
Saide's instructors say she is fascinated by other cultures and is passionate about exploring them in sociology. She plans to further her education and earn a bachelor's degree in political science before going to law school. She says the early college high school partnership with TJC has made her goals more affordable and attainable.
I've always wanted to go to college, and it wasn't until recently that I realized how expensive it was and the possibility that I might not have been able to afford it without being in the early college high school program.
But this hasn't stopped her from giving back to her school and her fellow students. She has also been an active tutor for the Peer Assisted Learning Program for the past 3 years.
It's amazing. We have our upperclassmen at early college. We get a chance to tutor the freshmen and sophomores or any grade who need help in other classes that we've already taken.
At Tyler ISD, we are committed to graduating all students with the knowledge, skills, and habits necessary for success in college, careers, and life. Congratulations to these students for their hard work, dedication, and character. Well done, students, and keep up the good work.
Tonight, we would also like to celebrate our District Teacher of the Month, Ashley Green, and you'll see some photos of her up on your screen here in a second. She's a middle school math teacher at Caldwell Arts Academy, and in the words of Caldwell Principal Mr. Bobby Markle, Mrs. Green is a terrific example of a star staff member at Caldwell Arts Academy. Previously an elementary math teacher, this year Ms. Green acquired certification so that she could teach middle school math courses. Her hard work and dedication in helping her students succeed is recognized by her peers and, most importantly, her students. Mrs. Green is a team player with a positive attitude, a smile on her face, and is always willing to jump in to help. So congratulations to Mrs. Green. Tyler ISD would also like to recognize and is proud to recognize Tyler Junior College for its continued partnership with the district in creating successful student outcomes. Recently, Dr. Crawford presented TJC President Dr. Juan Mejia with a Texas Association of School Board Business Recognition Certificate as part of TASB's Stand Up for Texas Public Schools advocacy campaign. And at this time, I would like to invite Trustee Aaron Martinez.
Thank you, Jennifer. President Washman, Dr. Crawford, fellow members of the Tyler ISD Board of Trustees, it is my pleasure tonight to recognize one of our colleagues who recently completed the Leadership TASB course of study. Leadership TASB was begun in 1993 as a way to offer advanced leadership training to experienced board members and is nationally recognized as the premier leadership training program sponsored by the Texas Association of School Boards. Upon successful completion of the course of study, the recognition of Master Trustee is bestowed. Leadership TASB is a highly selective program where normally only 1 in 4 applicants is accepted. In a typical year, the class meets around the state of Texas. They hear from nationally recognized speakers. They tour a variety of school districts and conduct research on a topic of relevance to school trustees. Class members represent districts from all parts of Texas with varying sizes of student enrollment and property wealth. Leadership TASB asks participants to work a little harder, be challenged with new thoughts, and renew their commitment to make a difference on behalf of school children in Tyler ISD and the entire state of Texas. Tonight, Reverend Fritz Hager, myself, and more than 900 Leadership TASB alums are pleased to present Dr. Patricia Nation with this certificate as a lifetime member in the Leadership TASB Alumni Association.
Can we get one more with the, yes, thank you. And that completes our special recognitions for this evening.
Okay, thank you. It is good to get back to celebrating our students and our staff and our faculty, and on this special night, another trustee. Little known fact, we have 3 master trustees sitting here at the dais, so we are covered. Masters of the Trustiverse there. That was weak. Okay, now we are going to move on to public participation. We have 2 speakers. The first one being Kassar Yassin. And I do hope I pronounced your name maybe close to being okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Kaysar Yassin, and I'm a junior at Tyler Legacy High School. And due to the coronavirus pandemic, everyone's lives have changed drastically, especially our daily schedules. I'd just like to show you guys mine. At 11 a.m., I wake up to check in on Canvas. After answering the one question quiz, I go brush my teeth and eat a late breakfast. At 11:15, I tune into my only live class of the day, which is what my calculus teacher kindly provided with her own technology. Though she struggles with screen mirroring and recording the lecture so that her online students can learn, and sometimes we have to remind her that we can't see her screen. Once she couldn't get it to work, and we had to fully rely on hearing her talk in order to learn the chain rule of derivatives. When her class ends at 1 p.m., I make sure my sisters are awake, and then I make some lunch. Some days it's homemade pizza, and some days when I'm lazy, it's ramen noodles. At 2 p.m., I check in on my sisters at how much work they've done. I end up helping them because they have no idea how to write a proof or what diatomic elements are. And later at 3 p.m., we get a call that one of my sisters forgot to check in. I then watch my sisters take the one-question quiz that records their attendance. From 4 to 6 p.m., I'm working as an online math tutor for some kids. It's refreshing to hear their stories of elementary school and the wacky problems they end up facing. And then after 6 p.m., I start my own homework, often rewatching the recorded lecture of my calculus class or listening to Khan Academy videos of biology. At 8 p.m., I begin to get frustrated as I have a calculus test soon and I don't understand much of the material. And then at 9 p.m., I realize that a teacher who hasn't posted work in weeks all of a sudden drops 5 assignments due in the next few days. And I end up going to sleep way past 3 a.m. I'm sure many of you are weirded out by my schedule, but a few of my friends doing online school with me have been following a similar one all year. According to the district statement, 60% of TISD online learners failed the first 6 weeks. And based on the lack of accountability and my schedule, I'm not surprised. And I just want to call to attention how easy it is for students who wouldn't normally go to the lengths I would in order to continue an online education to miss some assignments or accidentally fail a test. I had a group of 5 friends I'd constantly FaceTime and as we would do online school together. That number eventually dropped from 5 to 4, and now it's 3. They were scared for their AP tests because they didn't feel prepared whatsoever, despite their efforts to learn the content at home. I simply would like the district to better engage with our online learners, and I hope that the district provides our teachers with better training and technology so that they could all offer us quality live instruction, not only from their personal devices that they struggle with, but better ones given by the district. And it often feels like we don't even exist, and I fear for that more and more as students keep going back to school in waves and the amount of online learners that keep dwindling. I also fear for the health of my fellow students and my teachers. In fact, my own mother is a teacher, and a student of hers tested positive recently, but they didn't quarantine her for 14 days. I am appreciative, though, that the district does list out when a student does test positive at one of their districts and the date for that as well. But I am concerned, though, that once that student recovers and tests negative, that date is then taken out. And many parents and students end up sharing my concern because we often feel we are kept in the dark. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Okay, next we have Bob Brewer. How you doing, Mr. Brewer?
Well, me and the mosquitoes outside. Well, one mosquito. I think it was a mosquito
There's always just
outside.
that one,
It was just
right?
me and the mosquito.
Telling you.
So anyway, thanks again for this opportunity. I hope I will make this educational and painless. I would like to know, I don't know where the camera is, maybe over there. Anybody at home, anybody in the pulpit, anybody in the squad car, anybody in this audience, anybody on this board will know the answer to this question. Maybe I taught it last time, but I'm going to go real slow. There's 3 Supreme Court justice candidates that do not know what the first sentence of the entirety of U.S. law And the question I have is 19 words. It has 2 words for an answer, or maybe 4. So that is, to which laws does the first sentence of the entirety of U.S. law refer? And to which document was written to protect them? You don't have to answer. Does anybody know that question? The 2 laws in the first sentence in the entirety of U.S. law?
Law of nature.
Yeah, okay.
Law.
I'm trying to pace myself. You know
Okay.
how excited I usually am. So anyway, that's the laws of nature and the laws of nature's God. The laws of nature's God, I didn't know until about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4. That's the Bible. That is the foundation of the entirety of the United States law. When we talk about laws in America, there's 2 sets. I know I've mentioned this. There's God's law, and then there's everything else. When we talk about learning the Constitution, everybody glazes over, or at least I did. I kind of glazed over for 10 years. And then it hit me one morning. Revelation, I guess you might call it. But when we know the first 3 sentences of the Declaration, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands that have connected them to another and to establish among the powers of the earth the separate and equal powers to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. So we need to know the laws to which we are entitled. And then it goes on, all men are created equal with unalienable rights. And it just makes all of our laws so simple when you know that the reason that the Constitution was written to protect those first 3 sentences in the Declaration. And that 3rd sentence says, with the consent of the governed. And when we can sit in here without masks on, and I have to wear a mask and get my temperature taken out there, I did not consent to do that. I didn't consent for the governor to tell you to have to do it because he's enforcing laws that our legislature did not make, which is another reason why we have laws and we have to know them so that we know when they're being violated and when we know to stand up and talk to a board like this and an audience out wherever. So it's just real simple. Our laws are based on the Bible, those biblical laws, and our rights are given to us by our Creator at creation, and they are unalienable. When somebody talks about a constitutional right, that's nothing, because that's a man's law that was written in the Constitution, but it's not a God-given law. So it's the God-given laws, the first 3 sentences in the Declaration, that are so vitally important. And I hope somebody somewhere might have learned something from me on one of the times I've spoken dozens of times. Maybe this time was the time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brewer. And that is it for public participation this evening. Okay, now we're moving on down the agenda. We're coming to the approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from September 10th and September 21st?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries 6-0 since Mr. Berkfeld is not here. Moving on to continuous improvement. We have goal number 1 and 2, M-Class and Renaissance, beginning of the year summary. Dr. Crawford.
Yes, sir. I know the agenda looks light tonight, but we have a lot of information to present to the board tonight. We're back on track with continuous improvement. We've actually been able to provide our beginning of the year assessment in M-Class and Renaissance. And we have Dr. Christy Hansen and Dr. James Curitan that will be here to kind of guide us through the data as we go over that through the slides. So we have Dr. Curitan, who is our Director of Assessment and Accountability, And then Dr. Christy Hansen will be over there behind at the table. We're socially distanced. All right, Dr. Curidan, Dr. Hansen.
All right, thank you, Dr. Crawford and board, for giving me the opportunity to come and present this beginning of the year data. To just kind of start out, I want to just briefly contrast the two assessments that we use this year, which are different from what we used last year. We're going to present two data sets. The first is going to be M-Class, which is an assessment that's used really to assess reading skills in our early learners, so our kindergartners through second grade. And then we're also going to present our STAR Renaissance beginning of the year data, which is for our kindergarten through eighth graders in math and reading. And basically that is the, last year we presented MAP, historically we presented MAP data for our continuous improvement goals. This year we're now using STAR Renaissance, which is a similar type of test, an adaptive test that assesses math and reading. And we'll use it to project STAR proficiencies like we did with MAP. So it's basically taking the place of the old MAP assessment and the MAP data we used to talk about. M-Class, Amplify, I don't know that we ever talked about the data, but it's used, again, to assess skills, and we used to use MAP fluency for that. But this is a different type of assessment that's really more one-on-one of a teacher with a student, and the teacher doing the assessing, which is different from Renaissance. So the biggest thing to remember as we present these two data sets, and I'll say this again, but M-Class Amplify is really about reading skills. It's not about content or knowledge of content. It's purely about skills. STAR Renaissance is about content knowledge and not about reading or math skills per se. So just to give you some background on the two types of data we're going to present. We'll talk about the Amplify M-Class data first. So M-Class is used to assess reading skills in our K through second graders. We did go back and look at how our students are at-home learners versus our on-campus learners performed. And with M-Class, the majority of our at-home learners actually came to campus to take the assessment because it does require that one-on-one interaction with the teacher. And so we're going to present all that data together in one big lump. Here is the data just so you can kind of see what it looks like. M-Class uses a different type of terminology. They use the terminology well below benchmark, and at or above benchmark. Obviously, we want our students to be at or above the benchmark, but you can see how it breaks down at the beginning of the year between our on-campus students and our at-home students.
I do have one question before we move forward. I think I remember from, maybe it was from MAP or some other assessment. In the beginning of the year, it always looked concerning because we were measuring beginning of the year progress versus end of the year results that we're aiming for. Is that the same case in these numbers?
Good question. So this is strictly based on where students are right now. So we're not looking at any comparisons right now. Okay. With Renaissance, we can do some comparisons, but it gets a little bit iffy since we had a different assessment at that time.
Okay. Dr.
Mr.
Hansen?
Washman, when we get into the Renaissance and we start talking about the target data later, then yes, sir, that's exactly what we're looking at is the end of the year targets that were set up as goals,
okay.
And we're looking at the beginning of the year data as compared to the end of the year target that we're trying to reach.
Okay, so these benchmarks are where they should be right now, as you would
for Renaissance, right? So for M-Class, it's a different type of test. We really didn't even set targets for that. It really is just seeing where the kids are, then in the middle of the year, seeing what the growth is, and at the end, seeing what the growth is.
All right. Always good to know these little things before we move forward.
Yes, it's important to know that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so that's how our at-home students versus our on-campus students broke down. Thank you. So we assessed, as I said, our kindergarten through our second graders, and I just want to give you an overall breakdown of how they performed by grade level as well as overall. You can see as our students increase in grade level, there tends to be fewer students below the benchmark. So our kindergarten and first graders obviously are the students where we see the largest number below the benchmark right now.
Remembering that this year's baseline, both of these assessments are brand new for us. So we don't have any comparative data to see how our first graders last year did, or how the kindergartners last year did to the first grade this year. So this is all baseline data this year.
We did want you to be able to see a breakdown by demographic. A lot of the data we'll present later that Dr. Hansen referred to, the HB3 goals that y'all approved, we have to break them down by different ethnic race groups, as well as some of the other accountability groups that we reference later on. So you can kind of see how those different groups performed right now. So you can see our African American, Hispanic, our white, and our 2 or more race students by grade level. And then here, what we just want to show you is really the extent of this assessment. So starting at the top with letter names, this is one of the first skills assessed in students, and basically depending on the performance level of that student and where that student is in their ability to read, they're given multiple skills are assessed. So for example, as you go down, a student that's assessed on reading comprehension would be like a second grader that's able to read or is in the process of close to being able to read. But you can kind of gauge and see where our students are on each of the skills that we assessed in M-Class. Now I want to shift gears a little bit to Renaissance. M-Class is really, again, just about reading skills. Renaissance, we're going to talk more like we did with MAP in prior years, where it's about the passing standards and how students are going to do on STAR. Just as a quick referral back to what the terminology we use, all of the terminology we use, which is approaches, meets, and masters, really are passing standards when it comes to STAR. If a student gets approaches on STAR, that's approaches, college, and career readiness, and by the state standards, they are passing the state test. And so we just want to refresh you in terms of what those mean with approaches, meets, and masters all being meeting the passing standard. Approaches being the lowest of those passing standards, and then our students that get masters would be obviously the highest level of passing standard. You can see here how we broke down the data by grade level. So you'll see approaches, meets, and masters, columns indicating the percent of students that had approaches, meets, and masters in each grade. This is for reading, so we're just talking reading right now. You don't have comparison data to the beginning of the year last year where we had MAP, because again, it's a different assessment and it's a little bit harder to project when you go between assessments, but we will show you in just a second how that relates to our HB3 goals that you all approved. So our third grade early literacy goal was that about 67% of our third graders will pass STAR reading by the end of this year. Progress measures 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 all had to do with where kindergarten and first and second graders would be at the end of the year. Renaissance is the assessment we will use to see if we are meeting our goal for progress measure 1, progress measure 2, and progress measure 3. So here, for each grade level, you'll see 2 lines. That top line is going to be the target that we want to be at by the end of the year, so it won't change as we present this data at the beginning and middle and end of the year. It'll stay the same. The line below that's where we are right now. So at the beginning of the year. So you can kind of see where we are for kindergarten, first, and second. And this is just going to be for the different races and ethnicities of students, as well as our economically disadvantaged students. So you can see that we're between about 4 and 8% from where we need to be at the end of this year, according to Renaissance right now. You can also look at some of the other groups, special ed. You can look at our ELs, which is our English learners. That's our current English learners as well as our monitored English learners. And then you can look at our continuously enrolled and non-continuously enrolled students. Continuously enrolled and non-continuously enrolled, you don't see any data for kindergarten and first grade because those are students based on TA's definition that are here at least 3 years. So kindergarten doesn't have 3 years of enrollment data, so we can't say if they're continuously or non-continuously enrolled. Same thing with a first grader. Once we get to second grade, we can start to determine that, and so you'll see the targets for the progress measure as well as where we are right now. If we look at math data, you'll see it's presented in a similar manner. You'll see approaches, meets, and masters, projected proficiencies for each of the grade levels. I do want to point out that the masters, if a student is masters by default, they're also going to be in that meets and that approaches category, right? So those numbers are what we call nested inside of each other. They're not separate from, they're not mutually exclusive. And we can look at the same data, same math data for our second goal. Our second goal was that 73% of our third graders would pass STAR at the end of this year. This is what progress measures 2.1, 2.2, and 2.3 look like with the targets, end of the year targets, just like before, with where we want to be at the end of the year versus where we're at right now. And this again is presented in different race and ethnicities as well as our economically disadvantaged students. And then the next slide will show the special ed, our ELs, our English learners, and our continuously and non-continuously enrolled students. And I think that's it for now. If y'all have any questions.
Okay, anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Curitan?
Recognizing we changed assessment instruments and so we can't compare, do you have a sense for, is this as bad as you expected it to be? I mean, obviously the numbers are scary when you look at them. I know we did not finish the school year like we expected, and we're assessing things that we probably didn't rigorously assess before. But just I'd like some kind of commentary on how you feel about the data as you've poured through it.
We have a healthy level of concern and a sense of urgency for working with kids to fill the skill gaps. And certainly we are seeing those skill gaps that we anticipated. When you look at that M-class data, we certainly are aware that we have kids that are reading well below grade level. Not unlike what we've had in the past, only we just haven't had them for that concentrated period of time. The campus people, the principals, the teachers have done an excellent job. They're all in doing data analysis and remediation and tutoring and tier 2 intervention. So we anticipated that. Skill gap analysis were done before we ever started to spiral in what we anticipated might be some skills, Reverend Fritz, and now with better data, we're able to go in and spiral in even more with more specificity what the students need. So I can't say enough about the principals and the teachers and what they're doing to work with the kids. So we're not scared, but we do have a very strong sense of urgency. I think that's a good way to put it.
I don't think anything on there is insurmountable. I mean, there's a couple of pockets in there that, like I said, are red alert. But I think all the other things, as far as beginning of the year compared to what the target's supposed to end up at, if we can get them and get them back as quick as we possibly can, there's plenty of time left to provide that. As we get to the middle of the year assessment, we should be making some progress on that. So she's right. There's some issues in there that we're like, oh my gosh. But there's also some other opportunities in there I think we can make some improvements because we got some time, especially with some of the recent decisions we've made to kind of shift gears away from the digital stuff and try to get kids back into the schools.
I, like several of the board members, listened in on your session about reading improvement, and so it was convicting for me, and we've had this conversation many times, but it was put very succinctly by the folks at EAB about how urgent this is. And I mean, so I'm assuming you guys agreed with the things that your presenting partner said during that session. Yeah, sure. So 75% of kids who struggle at third grade are not likely to ever read at grade level. Yet 95% of kids are cognitively capable of reading, and that 79% of the difference in high school reading levels can be traced back to the quality of instruction in first grade. We know that teaching kids from tough places is hard and that there is very little room for error. But if 79% of the difference that we can identify goes back to the quality of instruction, that just puts a pit in my stomach as someone who's served on this board now for 5 years. And then the other thing that was convicting was they identified kind of the 4 pieces of a model to implement to what he called outsized reading gains, meaning not just little bitty marginal improvement, but how do you make real difference in a shorter term period. And I think, Dr. Crawford, your quote was, we're following the Bethlehem model almost to a T. And so the 2 things that we were doing, which we've done, invested heavily in, is the skills, the training for our teachers, which is continued and coupled with evaluations, all the classroom visits. And so that's the good fight, and that is the long fight. But there were 2 things they named. One I didn't know if we were doing, and the third I know we're not doing. So skills-based groupings. So used to be homogeneous groups or heterogeneous groups. Now it's not just you're all on the same level, but it's a specific skill. Is that an element of how we teach kids to read in TISD today now?
Absolutely right. That is just a natural part of what we do. Once we get this good data, the teachers begin to break kids down according to, we really don't even call it homogeneous grouping anymore. We call it skills-based grouping. Okay. So that if there's a student that, we don't do the bluebirds and redbirds and all of that. So, but if this particular skill, all of the students who need them, and at the various levels that they need them, they will do small group instruction. But the next week, a different group, the groups will look differently because the skill gaps or the skill mastery will be different. Because we all use the workshop model across the board, then it makes the classroom systems very easy to do skill-based grouping. That is what we do.
Okay, that's good news. The 4th one, and this is not a new topic for this board, is extended time. Mm-hmm. And they, clear as day, said of the 4 elements, every one of the districts they profiled that has outsized reading gains, rapid improvement in reading, so that another year and another year and another year does not go by, they have summer reading experiences for those kids who are at risk. And so I know we've invested. We did have that for our bilingual ESL kids, and I will say that I attribute some of that for some of the reasons. We have special grant money for that, and they do a great job. And in fact, we were just making up some of those hours the last 2 Saturdays, and so we realize that is another piece that we need to continue to expand what we already have going in the summer and get that PA structured literacy piece stronger in the areas where we are working in the summer, and get the right kids there for the summer. We know that we also need to get the right kids there. Interestingly enough, this summer, when we look at our ethnic breakdown, though, it was right at 30-30-30 for our ethnic breakdown for Rose City Summer Camp. And the same with the students that were in the remediation classes, meaning that they were 1 or 2 years below. Those numbers were right at, split right down into a third. So, we do need to work on getting the right kids there, though. I think that's an important point that you make.
We need some help on that, though, because it's not like we're not busting our humps to get it. The community needs to watch these board meetings and listen to us. We need that assistance. We need that help. There's no doubt about it. We need the parents to get the kids to school and keep them there during the summer. It's not this sporadic playing school babysitting thing that we're trying to do.
We did offer a lot of spots this summer with low to no cost, and had a lot of people not take us up on it. And it could be because of, the pandemic. We're not sure, but, we offered a lot of spots, and we had a great deal of people not take us up on it, which is too bad, because it was a successful program despite all the challenges.
Right. Well, but But we know that whether it's 600, 700, 800 people at Rose City summer camps, how many kids did we serve through the bilingual program? A couple hundred?
And yeah, probably about less than that this year. Again, just had enrollment. Right,
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah, I'm not.
So, I mean, and I think, Dr. Crawford, I think we've talked about different models other than a parent pay voluntary. We've talked about some of the year-round school models, but for year after year after year, for the research to be crystal clear, for all the experts to say, you have to have extended time to catch these kids up. And for us not to have extended time at scale, because we're doing other things, I get that, but 79% of the high school reading difference goes back to these early grades and being successful. And we spend a lot of time and money and effort and blood, sweat, and tears on our teachers' parts trying to help kids who are further along the curve and not doing extended time. I mean, we've got a whole book here of school improvement plans. Extended time is not a big part of a lot of these plans. And so it just struck me to have you guys presenting in a session where the experts lay out, here's exactly what you need to do, and you guys there saying, here's some of this model that we have followed, and I believe that will be successful. But the same expert who we just agreed with also said you've got to be doing something during the summer. And begging parents to pay money to send their kids there, I don't think that's going to get us to where we need to go to get these kids on track. And we've got to look at other models, whether it's year-round school and some feeder patterns. We just can't let year after year after year go by and know that this main element of this improvement strategy is just sitting out there and we haven't figured out how to get it done. So I'll step off my soapbox. But that's what happens
Duly noted.
when you send board members to training, and sometimes they actually listen to it and then bring it back. We're talking about school improvement. We're talking about early literacy. We've got to figure out how to do that and do it at scale for the kids who need it most. And we can't, and Dr. Crawford, I'm not saying you did this at all, but we can't blame parents. And candidly, we can't count on a lot of our parents. And so we've got to do everything we can to get these kids and get them on track at those earliest grades before some of these learning patterns set in soft concrete that are so hard to then undo after that. That's all.
Okay. Anybody else?
Ditto.
Ditto. Yeah. You know, I think once, if established, if a plan was set in place, I do think that one component of reaching the kids we need to reach is from September or August on, identifying those kids and targeting them and their parents with the idea of, if we really want to reach our potential here, we might need some extra time during the summer and on a, monthly basis, kind of hammering that idea home. That's just a thought. And what that looks like, is up to the administration. And I know we want every kid to do their best, and you guys are working hard. So if there's no other comments or questions for Mr. Curitan, thank you for the presentation. We appreciate it. Okay, now the BLADE update.
BLADE is Blending Learning and Digital Education. That is the initiative, or the acronym we've provided, and the name we've given to the initiative, because we know that this opportunity for blended learning inside of our classrooms and the digital experience outside of our classrooms is not just a temporary thing in a response to COVID. It is a thing that we're going to be able to capitalize on the digital nativeness of our learners in regard to technology. So we're providing you a blade. It's on our calendar to present to the board, and we're going to give you an update here from Dr. Hanson.
So thank you. I'm just going to really briefly, let's review kind of where we were. In the spring of 2020, we really sort of did what we'll call emergency learning systems. You know, we used Google Classroom. We really quickly trained teachers on the fly. We got some devices out there and did some hard copy packets. Transportation did a great job and took some things out. And I mean, we were doing everything we could to keep kids engaged as much as possible with learning so that they just didn't lose ground. That was the goal, is just to see if we can make sure you don't lose as much ground as possible. We went into the school year with a better plan. And the idea was to start with the blade plan, and then we had a little bit of a hiccup when, things happened. And so we actually ended up going with what we're calling sort of this hybrid virtual learning. So the students that were at home, that were learning virtually, and the students that were at school, some of them participated in learning virtually, and some of them did complete face-to-face, not a lot of virtual. It just all depended on where campuses were with devices and where we were with things. So now that we have our kids coming back and we're able to really move into blended learning and digital education, which is really a positive thing. If we're looking at silver linings, then this certainly is a silver lining. So let's look at just kind of where we are. And this data, I say it's where we are, but this was at the end of the 6 weeks. So at the end of the 6 weeks, we had 17,702 students. We had about 12,000 Chromebooks in the district. And at that time, we had about 5,000, a little over 5,000 of those Chromebooks were assigned to students. We're still waiting on about 7,500 Chromebooks. And just as an aside for you to know, next year during the summer, we're going to replace 4,000 of those 12,000 that we have up there. So we did adopt a learning management system, which is Canvas. And we did train all of our teachers on Canvas early in the summer, and then we did another training in pre-service. In hindsight, we wish that we had done a lot more, because as we know, until you get into it, you really don't know what you don't know. And so obviously there's just a lot more to do, and we continue to work with teachers and do more and more training, and we're bringing on more trainers of trainers within the districts. As we find those rock star teachers that are getting it and really doing great things, then we're able to train them and they're able to become trainers. So as of right now, we have about 75 trainers, that's fine, and then we've trained about 1,500, almost 1,600 staff members. At the end of the 6 weeks, we had just right at 3,400 Learn at Home students, and we had right at 14,500 at school learners. Those numbers have changed as well.
It's actually today, as of today, it's 2,700 at home.
2,700 at home?
Yes.
Okay. Also, just as an aside, since August 19th when we started, we're averaging about 9 curbside breakfasts a week. That's it for the entire district, not one school, and about 11 lunches per week. So that's just an important thing when you consider the number of low socioeconomic students we have that qualify for those breakfasts and lunch. And several of our schools, 100% of the kids qualify. So,
Tasha, not to dovetail too much off of this, but aren't we doing curbside? We're set up to offer curbside at every campus this year. It wasn't like during the summer or during the shutdown where we only did hubs. It was every campus, right? Okay.
So, district-wide, 9
yes, sir.
per week.
Breakfast.
And
Average.
for breakfast, and then 11 for lunch.
Per day.
Is there any miscommunication as far as parents? I mean, do we think
Per day.
they know about this, but they're just choosing not to participate? Is that kind of the issue, or do you think some people just assume that, you know?
Well, I mean, communications has done a terrific job getting the word out. I know the campuses continue to get the word out, so it would be hard for me to imagine that communication is an issue, but I'm not saying, that that's beyond the realm of possibility. I know that there are a lot of parents that are working and kids are at home, so
and
I don't know all the reasons. I would be speculating if I stood up here and tried that.
Typically, the elementary are most of our meals, like, I guess in the summertime or whenever we were doing this, or back in the spring, I guess elementary or secondary, or was there any sort of indicator as of the majority of kids who were picking these up? And is the reason because most of the kids are at school now, and so there's just not that many that would typically do it that are picking them up? I mean, what did you say, 2,700 are at home right now?
Yes, sir.
And I wonder how many of those are in high school and kind of capable of, I don't know.
Well,
It just seems low. I'm
of
just
that
trying to-
2,700, 1,000 of them are in high school that are staying at home.
Okay, so we got,
So there's 1,700 others
Yeah.
spread out amongst the 25 campuses.
okay,
The
1,700.
numbers, like in March when we stopped and we offered it in March, the numbers were greater than this, right?
Oh, we
yeah.
had big participation
That's what I
all
thought.
We
through
had
the
really
summer.
good participation. And those were
I thought
hubs.
We had
I
hubs.
mean,
They had to drive
you
to
didn't even
get
have to, it wasn't even at your neighbor, all of it wasn't at your neighborhood school.
Okay,
So
Yeah,
the ones that chose to stay at home during this time frame since school started, they're not coming to pick up the breakfasts or the lunches at all, basically, looking at the numbers. So for some reason, they chose not to do that with keeping their kids at home at the same time, which is unbelievable. But
okay, I was just kind of working through it.
So just a reminder of we looked at the end of the 6 weeks failure reports, and what we have here are all of the students and their failure percentages. So the red is if they failed one subject, the purple is if they failed 2 or more subjects. So all, of course, are all of our students. The Learn at Home students you can see there, and then the Learn at School students. So those are our percentage of failing students for the first 6 weeks. And then we broke it down also by grade level for you, so you could see this. Of course, back to Reverend
Hager?
Hager. Had a moment. Your point about the early grades and what happens, if kids miss big skills. And so there are our failure reports for our elementary, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. And then there are middle school failure reports, and those are all 1 or more. And then those are our high school reports right there. So we also broke that down by ethnicity for you, so you could see that. So S is school, H is home. So just very quickly wanted you to know that we're now moving into blended learning. Every campus either has or will finish a Canvas online course on blended learning. And then from there, we're doing an adapt and deliver sessions where we're helping teach master teachers and MTSs different pieces of blended learning, because true blended learning is a combination of face-to-face and online learning. So that's why it's blended, not just virtual. So we really look forward to being able to implement that fully so that kids are gaining all of the expertise of the teacher and all the wonderfulness. You just cannot substitute having a teacher with students, and then also having all of the digital innovation that comes with being a 21st century learner. So those are the next steps for us as we move into December and into the spring semester.
That's a good question. Mr. Jacks over here. Joseph, what was the date that most every one of our teachers received the iPads that were approved by this board and no longer using their own devices?
At the first of school. I don't have that exact date. It was in
Like around August 19th?
Yeah, right around the start of school.
Okay.
Within the first 2 weeks.
I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, it was within the first 2 weeks of school.
Okay, just refresh y'all's memory that this board purchased iPads for all of our four core, and then we've been able to fill in fact, I think y'all are approving some tonight to actually, for like elective type courses and everything else. So I just want to make sure that we're clear about that our teachers do have an iPad, correct? A district purchased iPad. The high dollar one, right, okay, good. Just want to make sure that y'all.
Dr. Crawford, just following up then, so if a teacher is using a personal device, they're doing that totally on their own, and they're not using the district provided?
That's correct. The district standard is the iPad that y'all provided them.
I had a question concerning the failure rates of the kids at home. Is that due to the fact that they're just not accessing the material and just not doing it for the most part?
So anecdotally, and we'd probably have to ask the school people probably more, they will know the details more than I would. But anecdotally, what we're hearing is that a lot of them are not turning the work in. Some of them are accessing the attendance course, but they're not actually going in and accessing the courses and doing the pieces of the work. And I will say, in defense of our teachers, they are doing a remarkable job. Now, not all of them are doing a synchronized or a live, but almost all of them are doing taped lectures and uploading them for kids, or they're taping their lecture on Monday and then uploading it for the kid. They might be one day behind, right? So it's all so that most of our teachers are doing a remarkable job of getting those lectures out there to kids and getting some pretty high quality online sessions going. They're not all of them are synchronized. Most of them, in fact, are asynchronized, and
Very
which is
similar
fine.
to higher ed, because I've got one of those in my house right now.
Yeah, very
So
similar to higher.
If you're about to go to college, get ready, because if
Mhm.
we get stuck in this rut that we're in right now, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get recorded lectures. You're going to get YouTube videos. I mean, some of y'all have kids that are living away from Tyler, Texas. I'm at least not paying room and board for that stuff.
Mine's back, and I'm paying room and board.
There you go.
That's right. That's always fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's dadgummit. I mean, we're expecting this, the 5-star premium thing, and this was thrown at us overnight, so we're not gonna make excuses. We can always get better. But in saying that, some teachers have found a way to do synchronous. And it's been pretty impressive when that happens, but that is the exception, not the norm.
But I would say almost all of them are doing some form of asynchronous, where they are recording their lectures or recording their PA lesson or recording their math lesson and then uploading it for students and parents to watch the next day. And just a reminder that in the Return to Learn, we told parents that if they had littles, that they would have to be responsible for helping their students instructionally. There's just no way littles can do it by themselves.
Question regarding the Chromebooks. Now, all the at-home students were given Chromebooks, or did we have 100% of that, or how did we go about it?
If they needed them.
If they needed them. So
right.
they
Some
had
of them chose to have their own devices.
Okay. So we have no way of knowing for sure if they actually had it, the ones that didn't access the system.
We would know if students checked out a Chromebook from us and did not access the system. But you're saying if they never access the system and they never
Right.
We do have some of those students that we just haven't heard from, and Constituent Services is they're doing a good job looking for them.
Okay. And just a comment in regards to the transition from March to going to the virtual learning. I think that we know that we had a very short period of time, and I think that y'all have done a very good job on trying to educate the teachers as much as possible. I think the teachers are doing an excellent job with what they have to do, the face-to-face in the classroom as well as the virtual. It's like dual duty, And I think that they are, as teachers normally do, they always step up. And I think that they're doing an excellent job trying to provide that educational piece for all the students. And I like to compliment them on their abilities and let them know that we really appreciate the sacrifice they're making with their time, because it's taken away some of their home life more than usual. So I just wanted to make sure that they really know that we appreciate what they're doing. In spite of how it looks with the success rate, I think that they're actually doing their part as teachers.
I agree.
Thank you for saying that, Mr. Newsom. The Monday after we announced that we're going to try to bring everybody back, I had 4 of them approach me really early in the morning and said thank you. But I was very clear, and I made sure I told them, it ain't over. It's not over. We're still going to provide virtual learning. You just don't want to have the volume that you had. And the numbers are saying that our volume is not nearly what it was back in September as well. So I think that they did struggle tremendously early. They've kind of settled down a little bit. But thank you for saying that. They really needed to hear that. That's good.
I know on the church side, we were just figuring out how to do online church. And then when we came back, we had a tendency to forget about all the folks who were still watching online. So some of the things we did to engage people, to follow up with people, that kind of fell to the side when everybody was back. Not everybody. See, I'm still doing it. When most people were back. And so we've talked about having digital specialists. And so as our numbers have gone from 40% of our kids down to 20% of our kids, assuming that number is going to continue to shrink, is that a strategy that schools are pursuing? Is rather than every teacher have to operate in this dual environment, go to folks who are just focused on serving the digital kids?
Yeah, and it may not even be just a single specialist. It's going to really depend upon how many kids you've got coming back. Because, I mean, I'm looking right now, places like Owens is going to be at 6%, or they're at 6% right now. Austin Elementary is at 7% coming, that's doing the digital. So they're looking for ways to either do a specialization with one teacher, maybe some different grade level grouping. I know people sometimes freak out about that. We don't, but I think that sometimes campuses do. And then maybe rotating. So in other words, if you're an at-home learner and maybe there's 4 teachers in 3rd grade, then maybe teacher A takes a week, teacher B takes a week, teacher C takes a week, teacher D takes a week. So they're going to try to look at a way to kind of spread that out. So what's going to be the consequence on that? What's going to be the unintended consequence on that? Well, you may not have the same teacher that you've had since day one. So we just need to be ready for that. That's what you've chosen if you're going to continue to stay at home. The campuses are going to have to adjust so they can effectively do a good job of instruction with the at-school learners and still take care of the at-home learners as well. You just may not have that same familiar face doing the instruction. So they're looking at those different options at each one of our different campuses. The secondary campuses are a little bit different whenever you start looking at the percentages. They're double digits. Three Lakes is at 12%. Moore's at 19%, which is great because they were at one time 35%. You're at Hubbard's at 13, Hogg's at 17, Bolter's at 20, Rise is at 30, but they're kind of set up for that, to be honest with you. Early College is at 30, same thing there because a lot of the higher ed stuff is online. Tyler High is at 26%, so that's good news. Legacy's at 22%.
Along the same lines, when we started this, we taught all our teachers virtual, and I had mixed emotions about that initially. I questioned Dr. Crawford about it, but I think it was a good plan. I think it worked. I think it was difficult for them, but I think it prepared us for anything in the future, and plus it gave them the foundation to being able to continue to grow using Canvas. Now all our teachers have been exposed to it as opposed to only a small group within a grade level. So I think that that was an advantage from that standpoint in having everyone be exposed to it at one time, and they all were challenged at the same time. So, but I think that, like Mr. Hager was saying a few minutes ago, that I think that we can look at something different, and I think you're thinking about that in the future in regards to rotating or a select group or whatever. But I think it was real imperative that all the teachers be exposed to it in case we do have a problem where we have to go to it.
Exactly. And it did help us early on to start the school year without everybody stacked on top of each other. There was that unknown, that uncertainty that helped us get through there, and we've been able to just kind of pretty much see if the plan was going to work. So, yeah, we've learned a lot, and we're going to just keep getting better at it, and then hopefully this will be integrated into our ecosystem.
Just our instructional strategies.
That's exactly right.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. All right, and now we have consider our approval of district improvement plans and campus improvement plans and the planning process.
So in front of you have a big book right here, and I'm sure y'all have gone over some of that, or when you can, and maybe you haven't gone through a bunch of it. So again, statutorily speaking, this is a requirement for the Board of Trustees, the governing board, to approve the district's plan. I think more than anything is to approve that the district does plan and does have a plan, and not to spend 2 hours or 3 hours at a board meeting. So what we traditionally do for our new board members here is that we go ahead and have this, and if you have any questions, then we obviously get you, if you have any specific questions to specific campuses, et cetera, and you wind up go ahead and we get you in touch over the next month or so as you have those questions, get those answered. So that's just kind of what we do, so, or what y'all have been doing. If you want to change it up, you can.
I'm okay with doing it how we've been doing it. Does anybody have any questions about that process? Or I know there is a big binder, full of these plans. Take your time if you want to review those, and if you have questions, Dr. Crawford is available. But any other questions or comments before we move on from that? Okay. We're going to move on to business, legal, finance, and consent.
That requires action.
Oh, it does. Yep.
Motion to approve the district improvement plans.
Do I have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Crawford. Okay. Now we're moving on to business, legal, finance, and the consent agenda here. I don't think anybody wanted to pull anything out of this except for gifts and donations, which is B. But if you do want to pull anything, tell me now before I entertain a motion for A through F with the exception of B. Hearing nothing, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for A through F with the exception of B.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, we'll go ahead and highlight our gifts and donations for this month.
In your board packet, on page 19, I apologize that we don't have actual page numbers on this agenda anymore. That is not our doing. That is TASB switching over to their new system.
Okay.
As they're trying to force everybody to go to using tablets, because you're supposed to be able to hit on that link and it carries you to that page. So just want to make sure everybody understands that that is not us, but it is actually page 19 in your printed packet underneath consent agenda. And we have two donations today. We have one for the amount of $5,000 from the Tyler ISD Foundation. A grant goes to curriculum instruction for our virtual robotics program that we have. Those are pretty cool competitions that we have every year. What's that going to look like this year, Dr. Hanson?
So this year it's virtual. They're going to be able to create. They'll be able to create specific inventions that solve specific problems, and they'll enter competitions, and they'll have to control the robot, of course, through the computer. And the great thing about this year is that unlimited amount of kids can enter this year, so that you don't have to have 5 on a team or whatever. So,
Good.
and we're expanding it all the way through 12th grade.
We appreciate the foundation providing this grant of $5,000. They're a friend of the district, there's no doubt about it. And then we also have $30,000 from the Tyler ISD Foundation as well to the technology department for the purchase of those instructional iPads. More of those. Those actually were a pass-through from another award, someone who awarded the grant, and they've been working with us and asking where that would go. And the younger, did we ever figure out where that was actually, who that was, what group of teachers that's going to? Pre-K and additional non-core teachers. So plugging those instructional devices for all of our teachers for $30,000.
Well, good deal. We definitely do appreciate the foundation and all they do for the district. Fritz, you want to give them a good plug?
Yeah, margin of excellence, all the extra cool things that teachers can dream up, the foundation helps fund. And so that's why teachers and administrators supporting the foundation, as well as my fellow board members supporting the foundation, is important.
All right. Thank you, Tyler ISD Foundation. And I will go ahead and entertain a motion to approve item B.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you once again. Okay, moving on to superintendent's staff reports. We have a construction update, and I guess Mr. Loper's going to come up here.
We've got Mr. Loper, Mr. Bedingfield, Ms. Jones that are with us tonight. We have some videos to show you.
Awesome.
What else are y'all going to come up here and answer some questions maybe, or would you like to introduce this, Mr. Loper? We're going to let you introduce it, Mr. Loper.
Well, I do notice on the loop when I drive by there are no halls where I used to roam the halls.
Mm-hmm.
It is gone.
No, sir. They're gone. I think what we'll do is we'll play the videos. We'll play let's do Legacy first.
Okay.
Joseph, and then Ms. Jones will come up here before the video's done to answer any questions that you all might have.
Thank you.
After a long-anticipated 3 years of building the Tyler Legacy High School, the doors of the new school were opened to students and faculty for the first day of school. Pulling up to the school, there is an immediate sense of pride, integrity, and excellence one should feel as they step foot on this beautiful campus. The main entrance provides safe and immediate access to administration on both west and east sides of the corridor. The split staircase truly gives meaning to the depth and magnitude of this campus, leading up to the second floor classrooms. Once you pass the corridors, your attention is drawn towards the media center that accommodates students and staff to gather in quiet spaces as needed for reading material and studying. Its multifunctional nature provides an excellent place to hold meetings, charge phones and laptops, or receive professional development training. It even includes a flex learning center that holds classes with state-of-the-art technology. To the west side of the media center is a lecture hall that holds up to 90 seating capacity and full presentation view of two 65-inch interactive flat panels for spectators to view. There are over 150 classrooms throughout this new facility that include a teacher workstation, comfortable, spacious seating for students, and 75-inch interactive flat panels in all classrooms. The memorial is located to the east of the academic building and is a constant reminder of remembering our loved ones and honoring those that have served our country. There is a large, spacious cafeteria that provides lots of natural lighting, stage platform for meetings with AV system, and large projector for meetings or gatherings. During lunch, students have access to a beautiful courtyard It is the central focus and heart of the campus. Students may eat in the courtyard during lunch and spend time socializing with others. To the north of the campus is everything fine arts and the Fine Arts Center. The band hall, orchestra, and choir rooms all have AV systems, practice rooms, large projectors, and spacious rooms that will enable the program to grow even more in the future. To the east of the campus, the field house has been renovated and blends in well with the overall color scheme of the academic building. It indeed will spotlight the talent of students and promote that winning spirit. Our most recent completion was opening the newly renovated Red Raider Competition Gymnasium. Students have played their first few volleyball games in the gym. The front lobby of the gym is scheduled to be completed within the next month. For the remainder of the school year to summer 2021, the construction team will focus on completing the indoor athletic center, baseball, softball, and practice soccer fields with turf, tennis courts, exterior lighting for fields, lobby for Fine Arts Center, parking, and locker rooms for the competition gym that will be completed. The support of our taxpayers has truly helped this vision come to life. Thank you for your patience and encouragement over the years. We look forward to updating you again in the near future.
If there are any questions for you, I'd be more than happy to answer them at this time.
When was the drone footage taken?
Actually, last week.
Last week, okay. Yeah, it looked very recent.
Very recent, yes.
Does anybody have any questions for Mrs. Jones?
My standard question, we're still on schedule and in budget?
Yes, sir. We are still on schedule and on budget.
Beautiful facility. I cannot wait to see kids out there playing on those fields, and I think that the energy that'll bring as you drive by the campus is just such a far cry from what it was. And
yes.
I'm definitely proud of that facility as well as Tyler High. Anybody have anything else?
Looks awesome.
No? Thank you. It looks great.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
And is that presentation on the website or somewhere? Will it be?
Will be
uploaded? Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's up there yet, but
okay. Yeah,
we can
that'll
put
be a
it on
good.
there somewhere?
That'll be a good one to share.
We can upload it for you.
Oh, it's already been tweeted out. So
already been tweeted out. Okay,
it's
great.
out there. Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, Tyler ISD, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Crawford. This video will give you a brief update on the construction progress at Tyler High School, and I will be available to answer any questions you may have at the end of this video. The last construction update we provided was pre-COVID, and I will say that a lot of things have changed since then. The first stop we will take is at the new Performing Arts Center. This phase was completed and turned over for occupation in August. This building section also includes the band, choir, and orchestra areas. Next, we see the progress of the new indoor athletic complex. Foundations, structural steel, and masonry are all completed, and we are working to dry the building in. This is scheduled to be turned over for the spring semester, which is when we'll start the renovation of the field house. Here we have the newly renovated C and D halls, which is now called the B Hall. Students and staff began occupying this section in August as well. We are now actively renovating the existing A and B halls. Demolition is nearing completion, and the installation of new walls and MEP infrastructure is underway. This footage shows the removal of the second floor to create a clear story, library, and media space. This building was previously the Votech building, and with the renovation completed in August, students and staff began occupying the new dance and drill studio and the CTE Makerspace. Last, the renovation of the JV gym was completed, and now demolition has commenced in the varsity gym in preparation for the renovation and completion in the spring of 2021. Thank you again for allowing me to provide you with an update on the construction progress at Tyler High School, and yes, we are happy to report that we are still on schedule and within budget. Thank you.
Thank you again for allowing us the opportunity to provide you with updates on our construction, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have about Tyler High.
What is the projected completion date? I keep hearing that all the time.
Final complete is August of 21. That's done. Everybody's sweeping out and walking away.
Okay.
All right.
I'd just add that I wish the public could see these buildings. I know because of COVID, we've got everything locked down, but talking to teachers and students about the difference these buildings are making and how excited they are, and the programs that were underserved from a square footage and quality standpoint that now have room to grow. It's really an exciting time to be on either of those campuses in Tyler ISD right now.
Absolutely. We're pretty proud.
August of 21, we're hoping to have one portable left in the district. And then that's out of sight, out of mind.
Is that a Hog?
Yes, it's a Hog.
I can't wait to see, when it's completed, as you walk into the lobby, entering into the second phase. It's blocked off right now in the media center. And I think that'll be incredible. I think everybody will be shocked at how awesome that'll look.
I think it'll tie it all together finally. See the big picture.
Yep.
In regards to Tyler Heights campus, I know we still have quite a few portables, and the question has been, and I don't know if you were on the planning, in regards to how they're dealing with it during the rainy season this fall. Were you involved with that, determining the process and what they're going to do? Could you explain that?
I was involved in that, yes.
Okay, could you explain that?
Mr. Lane and I coordinated together before school started. What's occurred before construction, obviously, they had rainy day schedules where they would pull some of those portables in and hold class sessions in parts of the campus to hold the students in. They're still doing that, but the other thing we've done is provided hard surfaces to get to the portables, which would be gravel walkways and covered areas as well. So.
They've also changed the bell schedules there as well. We didn't even have to work with Mr. Lane on that. He just had enough ability to pick that up. In years past, it had taken an act of Congress to plan that and make that decision, but they've actually lengthened some of those passing periods. And the great thing is we've gone to blocks, so you're not taking too much of a chunk out of instructional time to lengthen those passing periods to get from B to those portables, and sometimes even on a rain day. That allows the students to have a little bit more time to maybe wait for one of those squalls to kind of blow over before they get to their actual portable. So I think there's been a little bit of flexibility there.
Sure.
That staff's been really good to work with. Right. And Mr. Lane's done a good job this year.
And as far as the construction side, we're constantly updating our covered walkways, our paving, and our gravel that we're using to maintain safe and adequate access to those places.
Yeah. Now, I was over there last week, I think it was, and I didn't notice the covered walkways all the way to all the portables at this time. You're still in the process of doing that? Or?
No, not to all the portables, but
Okay.
to the area that the portables are at. So to go down the hill between the band hall and what used to be called the VOTEC building is a covered walkway with sidewalk. I've also provided a covered area at the end of the new B hall, which is where they're staging the students for the bus pickup time. So they hold the students under canopy and then release them as the buses arrive to load up and leave.
I know it's a long walk from the south end where the exit is all the way around the back. So I assume that on those rainy days, they'll be going through the building to the portables from that aspect.
That's the way I would do it.
Okay.
That's what they're doing, and that's why he lengthened those passing periods, so that they give the students enough time to get there, understanding that that's a little bit longer walk, especially on a rainy day.
Right.
And we've looked at, I've challenged them to see if they can make it work. Once they get that west side of the remodel of the core part of the building, if there's an opportunity there for maybe a hallway to get from there to kind of that library area, or even those stairs that go down by the gym.
Right.
That would be a cut through, but no promises on that.
Yeah,
We're just looking at it. So if it's going to depend upon if the work can get finished before we can commit to that. And I think it's only upstairs is what we were saying.
That's correct.
Right?
It would be one hallway upstairs.
Yeah. It may not work. So, but we're looking. I mean,
Right.
the logistic challenge on this. It's been a 3-year thing, and we're 2/3 of the way through that. So I think that's one good thing is that this time next year we're going to be out of this gym.
Right. Thank you.
We have certainly come a long way since May of 2017.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Any questions or comments?
Mr. Loper.
I might want to add a little bit to both presentations. The next presentation that you all will see, there's some areas that you didn't see, such as the cafeteria renovation, the kitchen renovations, and it just wasn't real exciting at this point. But the next updates that we give you, we'll do a little more in depth of those areas that you didn't see, such as the Performing Arts Lobby 2 over at Legacy, and a little more in depth of the A and B area that you saw some of the demo. Now we should have some things going back in place that'll certainly be a little more exciting to look at.
So we are just to make sure that we can discount the fake book that's out there. We are building a kitchen at Tyler High, correct?
We are building a kitchen at
Okay.
Tyler High.
Well, let me discount this other rumor that we're not just going to live with one gym at Legacy, right? So kitchen
No.
at Tyler High and more than one gym at Legacy, right?
We'll have 3 gyms at Legacy.
Okay, so for all of y'all that are watching out there that are keyboard cowboys back there in fake book, we want to make sure we discount that. Kitchen at Tyler High, right?
Correct.
Okay, we've got the money. We're under budget and on time.
It's already in the bid.
Okay. All right. This is a temporary thing we're living with right now. And then only one gym at Legacy. We're going to have more than one gym.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We just poured the slab last week on one of the gyms.
Okay. There you go. We made a commitment at the board
got the
diet.
kitchen
We're
roughed
doing
in.
those things. There you go.
All right, so-
Okay. All right.
Living through a remodel can be tough. I know that. Thank you, Mr. Bedingfield.
Thank you.
We do appreciate all the work you're putting in. Okay. We have a high school voter registration update.
I'm actually presenting this one. Just go ahead and put it up on the screen. So every year, the Texas Election Code, Section 13.046, says that each principal is actually deputized at a private or public high school, or the principal's designee actually is deputized as a registrar to register students to vote. At least twice each year. We do it once in the fall and once in the spring. We actually do that distribution of the official registration forms to our kids, students that are 18 years or older during that year. Next slide. Here's our data from this year. For the new board members, sometimes these things get a little bit skewed because there's already students that are already registered to vote. So a lot of them have got their driver's license between now and then. Some of them are actually aggressive enough to actually go register on their own. There's other voter registration opportunities. I think we even had one the night of the Blue-Red game. Mr. Pinkerton set up a voter registration table outside the football stadium. So that's our data for this year. Registered student voters, 102. There was 333 eligible. So don't think a 30% batting average there is to be concerned about. There's actually more students that have already been registered to vote. We just don't have information. We don't have that data. But we actually registered 102 kids. Spring should, even though they could do it now, if they're 17 or going to turn 18, we usually get more in the spring than we do in the fall. These are some of the things that we actually did in communicating our efforts. We certainly posted a lot of posters. We did social media as well. Eligible student lists were provided to the campuses, and those were distributed in the social studies departments, I believe. Email text was sent to the eligible students about voter registration deadlines, and then we also had a press release as well. So much improvements here over the way that we used to try to register and who we depended upon to register our students here in the community. We actually took hold of that, and I think we're doing at least enough effort there. Would like to see more kids registered when we do it, just to make us feel better, but I think we are getting them registered.
It's good that we're doing it.
Questions on that?
It's an awesome privilege, for sure. Does anybody have any questions about voter registration? So the eligible number can be a little misleading, because although they might be eligible, they might not be because they're already registered.
Yeah, and we also have some kiddos that might have a few, some citizenship stuff that's going on. You just never know, and certainly we want to be respectful of that to them. And
okay,
pretty good. It's good. Well, make sure you go vote. It's the year to do it.
It's the year.
It's the time to do it.
Well, thank you for that update. If nobody else has any questions, comments about that, we'll go ahead and highlight our future business, which is a workshop in November. Is that to be determined? Because I know there's a
still waiting on a confirmation from one individual to see what her schedule looks like, but I'm also got some people maybe backups on that.
Okay. And then November 16th, we have our regular meeting.
Yep. It's a little bit further up in the schedule because we do have Thanksgiving break coming up.
Well, good deal.
Can you believe that? That's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
When we started this, who could see Thanksgiving? Ms. Dykeman?
Well, okay. I guess we're at the moment in the meeting where I take a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries, and the meeting is adjourned.